Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, distinguished keynote speakers, respected presenter, esteemed colleague, and all participants in ICOSEND 2025. It's an honor for me to present one of our research work under the themes of social environmental resilience in coastal cities. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dini Anggraini. On behalf of my co-author, I would like to express my gratitude to Universitas Semarang for hosting this international conference. Our research title is Cinema and Catastrophe Exploring Disaster Risk and Community Resilience in Coastal Area through Bangkit Films 2016. Climate change and rapid urbanizations are increasing disaster risk globally, particularly in coastal megacities like Jakarta. Flooding is no longer just hydrometeorological issues, it's a social cultural problem. Many scholars argue that public understanding of risk is shaped not only by scientific data but also by cultural narratives. Disaster films are one of the cultural texts that shapes these narratives. The research problems, despite the importance of disaster films, Indonesian cinema remains under-examined. Few studies analyze how films construct urban vulnerability, frames governance, portray community resilience, but in film Bangkit 2016, it fills this gap of the lack semiotic interpretations from the previous studies. The research objective in this study is to analyze symbolic representations of disaster risk in Bangkit, to interpret how the film constructs narratives of governance and community resilience, and the last is to examine ideological meaning embedded in disaster imagery. The theoretical framework that we used in this study is Rombard semiotics. It consists of denotations, connotations, and myth or ideological narrative. The framework chosen help decode how films generate multi-layered meaning. The methodological used in this study is qualitative semiotic analysis. As I mentioned before, we use Roland semiotics to reveal the denotations, literal imagery, connotations to show the cultural meanings, and last myth to explore the ideological message that contained in its picture or scenes that we got from the film. The data we used is one films titled Bangkit 2016. We got 15 scenes, but we just focus on 7 key scenes. We frame capturing, and then dialogue transcriptions, and the last crossing disciplinary triangulations to make our research got the better analysis. In result and discussions, I would like to show you one samples of our scenes here. Yeah, the film titled Bangkit in the first, it display a large and then bold and capitalized gray white letter, and the tagline beneath the title, karena menyerah bukan pilihan, because giving up is not an option. It is the denotations meaning. And then we move to the connotative shows, a symbolic representations of struggles against overwhelming odds, imposing hope, bravery, persistence in the face of catastrophe. And the last, in the myth analysis, it shows that the frame naturalized the idea that resilience, unity, and moral courage are core Indonesians' value. The Bangkit here, or The titles here evokes Indonesia's long-standing cultural myth of rising after disaster, suggests that Indonesians are inherently strong and then united and capable of overcoming crisis. A black background in that picture suggests seriousness, uncertainty, and looming dangers. Create an atmosphere of tensions that prepare the audience for a dramatic narrative in the next scenes, because we can see from the durations or the times here, it's still in the first of the films. Yeah, we still have an hour to show the films. In that films, we got the governance challenges, because several scenes highlight institutional confusions and delay crisis response. This reinforced public perceptions of weak governance, reflecting real challenges in Indonesia disaster management systems. Yeah, we can see from the flood, and then the rain, the hard rain, and then symbolize institutional weakness, yeah, in that film. The next is we can find the community resilience there. The film strongly positions resilience as a collective and cultural value rooted in family and community solidarity. This aligns with Southeast Asia disaster studies that emphasize social capital in survival. Family bonds, like Indonesia's has a spatial tagline, gotong royong. Yeah, so the emotional solidarity as a cultural resource, it can be strongly feel in these films. The last is implications, especially policy implications. The policy implications here need for integrated coastal urban planning. It must be improved early warning communications, because we can see from some scene, yeah, the shape public risk perceptions. It can be misunderstood, yeah, between the head of crisis government and also the staffs. Yeah, it shows how cinema shape public risk perception, strengthen interdisciplinary dialogue between film and disaster studies. Yeah, we learn more about the winds movement. Yeah, the name of winds movement, about over cultural insight of coastal city governance. And finally, we come to the conclusions here that this film, in Bangkit film, is more than entertain. It's cultural communications, so it's visualize environmental risk, critics, governance, and highlight community solidarity. This makes the films a useful cultural lens for understanding resilience in coastal megacity, for example, in Jakarta. That overall, Bangkit transformed disaster realities into accessible cultural narratives that prompt reflections, raise awareness, and invite interdisciplinary engagement. Its thematic frames valuable insight for researcher, planner, and policymakers that seeking to understand how society interpret and responds to crisis within increasingly vulnerable coastal environment. The study over new insight into how disaster cinema can inform coastal city planning and climate adaptation discourse, providing cultural reflections on governance, risk communication, and the last is collective resilience. The power of collective actions, together we can make a difference. I think that's all for my presentations today. Thank you very much. And hopefully our study here, our research can give you the new insight I would like to close our presentations. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.